Hi, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So our podcast is about your guys' journey in the music industry. Obviously, you have an extensive catalog and been doing this for a while. So maybe we'll just talk about mainly how you guys started the band and get it going, and signing your first record contract, and then obviously the reissue that's coming out as well.
Okay.
Cool. So Noel, where did you both grew up in Ireland, correct?
Yeah, in Limerick, where we are now, and we got together. People find this funny through breakdancing.
Really?
Yeah. I got into it with some friends, and Ferg lived kind of not so far away. And I can't remember, Ferg, did you come to us? We went to you anyway. We kind of hooked up through that, and that was it. We just became friends, and we were, I'm guessing, about 14, Ferg?
We're 14, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. So,
through breakdancing, huh? How did you guys get into breakdancing?
Yeah. I think everybody did it.
It was kind of the craze at the time. It was like 84, maybe. I think Shaka Khan was the first video I saw. I Feel For You, and I remember there's breakdancers and that, and I was like, whoa, what the hell is that? And that was the start of it, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
you can thank breakdancing for the Cranberries.
I love that. That's so funny. Yeah. That's so cool. So you guys meet breakdancing. Did you play instruments prior to meeting each other?
No. I didn't anyway. Did you?
No.
I don't think kind of being in a band wasn't really something on any of our minds at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up happening was, I guess, breakdancing kind of ran for a couple of years, and it kind of faded out. Around the same time that we could start to go out to bars, we were, hitting 16, 17 kind of thing. And we were always into music, all that gang of us that hung around together. Like, we used to kind of save up, do day trips to Dublin to, remember that, for the Virgin Megastore trips, and just buy tons of music and come home. So we were all kind of into music, but just none of us played. And then a kind of a really good music scene started locally. And I think, for you were the first to go to gigs, really.
Yeah, I was a year older, so I could kind of go out to nightclubs and that. And a friend of mine was running like a, what you call it, pirate radio station they had at the time. And he used to play loads of local bands and Irish bands and that. And so I got tapes of that and started playing it for the lads and said, these bands are from Ireland. And we kind of, we always maybe thought starting a band was for people in the US or the UK. And then when we heard these tapes, it was kind of like, okay, these bands are Irish. They're from Limerick or Dublin or Cork. So that kind of spurred us on, I think, to kind of say maybe we could do this ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And what drew you to the drums?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Mike was originally going to be the drummer because he was into playing drums, but then a friend of ours had a drum kit, and I went down to his house one day, and he started playing The Cult. I remember Love Removal Machine, and then I sat down behind it, and he kind of showed me what to do, and I started playing a beat, and then he went, Jesus, you should get a drum kit. You kind of have an ability for this. So I don't know. It's just chance.
And then, okay, so Noel, and did you guys have a band? Were you guys either in bands prior to joining with each other to join the Cranberries, or was it always that was both your guys' first bands?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, we were really, really bad. we kind of got instruments and let's start a band, and had no musical knowledge, had nothing, We tried to do, remember this, Ferg, the cover version of Psycho Killer.
Oh God.
We thought, the the Talking Heads song, we thought that doesn't sound so bad, so hard, let's give it a go. And dreadful, absolutely dreadful. but everyone's got to start somewhere and learn. So
Right.
yeah.
So was that,
Um,
so you guys were doing covers. Did you ever play a show just because you guys weren't called the Cranberries yet, right? You had a different name?
mm,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So tell me about starting
We
the band and everything.
well,
Initially,
what ended up
we just
happening? Yeah, go for it, Ferg.
the three of us were playing together, just practicing in
Mm-hmm.
my garage, and then Noel bumped into a friend that lived around the corner, Niall Quinn, and he was in a different band called the Hitchers, and he said, "Look, I have some songs that I kind of haven't been playing with the Hitchers, and I want to do it like a side project." So we got together with Noel and went up to a rehearsal space. It was kind of a local studio that had like rehearsal spaces and that. So we started playing some songs with him. Noel had some music he'd written, and Niall wrote some lyrics for that. And we did a few gigs and did a demo tape, but it wasn't really kind of what we wanted to do. They were kind of humorous songs, kind of funny in that. And I was like, yeah, not really what we wanted to do. So we did it for a while. It was a good experience just to kind of get to learn to play and do a few gigs.
Where were you guys playing at that time? Just like
It's
pubs and stuff?
clubs in Limerick.
Okay.
Just clubs. Yeah, local clubs in Limerick, opening up for other bands and that. And, it was a good experience to start off.
Sure.
But I think that was about 9 months, Noel, was it? We did it for...
Yeah, even that. But it wasn't too long. But as you say, it kind of taught us a bit of how the band structure works and getting a song together, and even the experience of playing a gig, even if it's just your friends sometimes. But just it was a good kind of starting point for us and gave us a bit of a direction in kind of, okay, this is the way it works kind of way. And then Noel went back to the Hitchers, kind of the band he was with. Then I wanted to dedicate more time into that. So he went on his way, and we kind of became an instrumentally kind of band then for a while. We kept we
writing.
wanted to keep doing it. Yeah. So there was a rehearsal place in town, and we'd go up there a couple of times a week and kind of to build the kind of catalogue of songs together.
And this was out without lyrics and anything? It was just all music?
Yeah, nothing, but we still enjoyed it. It was fun, and our friends would come up and kind of hang out and this kind of thing. And eventually, I can't remember after how long, but Noel again came back to us and said, "Are you still together? What are you up to?" And we were saying, we're tipping away. And he said, "Well, actually, my girlfriend's sister knows a girl in her class at school who's looking for a band. She doesn't want to do cover versions. She wants to do original stuff." And he said she could really sing. And we were like, cool, let her come up. And, and that was it. I think Noel came up on a Sunday afternoon with Dolores. And that was the first time the four of us met,
Wow.
Just like that.
And she just came in. At that point, you said you had music and no lyrics and melody in that way. But so did she come in on that first practice and start writing with you guys?
She had some songs she played on the keyboard. We played the music for Linger and recorded it on a cassette tape with like a boombox. So she took that away with her and came back the following week with lyrics for Linger. Some kind of rough lyrics and that keyboard string line as well.
Wow, that's crazy. That was like the first song too.
Mental.
I know.
What a way to set the stage for what became. So she came back with that version of Linger, and did it just kind of take off from there? You were like, okay, this is it. This is the person.
That was it. And we were lucky. We kind of had a bunch of stuff kind of instrumentally bits, so we were able to kind of give her stuff every week to take away, and she'd come back, and there was no shortage of songs initially, and then no, there weren't all, there was more quantity than quality, shall we say, there, but it, it was still, enough to kind of keep us going. And eventually, obviously, then we started doing a few gigs. We would be the opening act for a lot of bands that were more established in town. But, for us, again, it was a great experience to go and do these things. And I think eventually we scraped up enough money to do a demo because we just thought it'd be cool to kind of get these songs down and just for ourselves even, there was no big ideas about kind of we'll do a demo, we send it off. It was really for us and for our friends and stuff like that. And that's really kind of what started the next stage then, really.
So it's because you guys recorded the demo tape. Was that what became Water Circle, or was that something different?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was that one, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you guys record Water Circle, and then you're still performing locally around Ireland. And then did that record? Is that what got you guys signed? Was that?
Yeah. Well, we decided after hearing the demo, people that worked in the studio were kind of saying you should send it off to record companies or whatever. So we kind of looked at the backs of records that we liked, like the Smiths or whatever, and Rough Trade was one of the labels. So we sent it off to Rough Trade. We sent it off to Ireland, a few different places, and then we started getting phone calls from record company people saying, we'd like you to come over to London and play. And we couldn't afford to do that. So we kind of said, look, we're playing in Ireland next week or whatever, if you want to come. So some people started flying in to see us, and then it was kind of, that went on for a few months, maybe nearly a year. Met a few different people, and then at the end of the day we decided to sign with Ireland because just Denny Cordell was the guy who signed us, and he was a really cool guy, and he was into music, and he was more of a music man than a businessman, so that suited us.
Wow, I would never thought of that. Like what you said, just flipping the records over and being like, okay, who put out this Smiths album, or who put out whatever you guys were listening to at the time, and kind of finding those labels to contact. Wow. Well, geez, it's crazy because you went from breakdancing to,
at the time
just deciding to start a band.
Stuff, so
And then now major labels are calling you.
Not even a rap band. Yeah.
Right. Nothing. Yeah. Not even something you could breakdance to.
Yeah. No, total teenager thing. Go with whatever's happening at the time, and
Sure. Wow. Well, when you guys put out the demo and started getting all this traction, that must have been like pretty exciting, I would think, right? Like having these labels kind of contacting you, and once we
got that first letter back from Rough Trade, were the first to contact us, and of course, we were all getting ready to drop everything we were doing and give us the contract, we'll sign now, kind of thing.
Sure.
But it kind of was it nearly a year, I'd say, Ferg, of that really kind of coming over and back from London, and they'd come and watch us play gigs and stuff. And we weren't great live, so to come and see us live, we were very inexperienced still. So the good thing for us is doing all these shows, it kind of helped us get more relaxed on stage and kind of get tighter as a band as well, until we did sign eventually. And then the hard work, as they say, begins, because it was like, okay, now you got to do the album. And we ended up going in we took a chance and asked, would Stephen Street do it again? He had done the Smiths. He had just come off the back of the first Morrissey solo album, and we were all kind of fans of that. And we asked Denny, do you think he'll do it? And Denny reached out, and he agreed to do it. I think we were all surprised. Okay. He came to see us. He told us later on, we played the Marquee in London, and he was at the gig, and he just said, look, there was something there. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he just said it interested him enough that he'd come and do the album. And we did a trial for a week in Dublin with him, and it just straight away, it just clicked. Denny came over and loved what he heard, and just said, work away. And to be fair to the record company, they never bothered us again. They just left us
Really?
alone after that. Yeah.
Well, I guess after putting out your first record and it just going nuts, I'm sure that they kind of knew that they could back off a little bit. That you guys knew what you're doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, because you hear all these horror stories of bands, that get hounded all the time and, change this, change that. We never really had that with them. Denny was kind of, once he knew you were actually doing something and you weren't in there gone crazy, kind of experimenting with stuff. So, and that was it. Like, we recorded the album, we clicked with Steve, we're still friends with Steve to this day. And we were really, really proud of that album when it came out then.
Mm-hmm. So you guys, you signed to the label and then you went to the studio to work on Everybody Else Is Doing It, So Why Can't We?
And initially, no, we did a little tour. It was Denny that actually suggested that because we weren't that tight at the time. We were a little bit inexperienced with the whole live thing. So he said maybe do a couple of tours around the UK, playing small clubs for a couple of weeks at a time. So we did 2 weeks and came back for a while and did another 2 weeks. And that experience of playing every night, I think, helped tighten us up. So we came into the studio after doing those kind of that month, we'll say, in the UK. And it definitely served us well because we were a lot tighter by the time we got into the studio than playing as a unit.
Who were you guys touring with in those early tours? Do you remember, or were they just kind of small?
The first band was Moose. They were like a kind of shoegaze kind of band. They were really good actually. And then Top were from Liverpool. They were kind of a poppy kind of alternative-y, a little bit almost a little bit like the Arctic Monkeys or something, but not quite there. But they were kind of like on that line.
Okay. Wow. And then so you guys get back from those tours, you record the first record, and then when that comes out, it obviously does very, very well. And how did you guys, I mean, that must have been pretty exciting too, to see how well the record does when it comes out.
Yeah. Well, initially it kind of bombed in Europe. It came out
it?
And to not much fanfare at all. And I don't know, I guess we all kind of thought maybe a little bit, this is all the kind of stuff you hear about where bands do an album, it doesn't do well, and then they get dropped. And, there was a little bit of, I don't know where we're going to go from here. So our agent at the time got us on a tour with the Hot House Flowers, which were another Irish band. They were touring across Europe. And we did that, but nobody knew who we were. The album was out, but it hadn't sold anything. And we were kind of, that band when they open the doors and everyone's kind of walking in, going to the bar.
Sure.
There's a band playing in the background, but it could be anybody. There was a bit of that going on. No, we had great fun. It was easy for us because it was like a holiday, and they were really good to us as well. But we didn't know that Denny was over in the New York office. He'd been kind of tipping away with college radio. He'd his kind of guys over there working away. And we just get this call out of nowhere that, you've got to come to the States, that Linger has just taken off in college radio, like big time. And we had about a week left in that tour, Fergal, I think, the Hot House Flowers tour. And we were near the end of it anyway. But we left from that tour straight to the States. And that's kind of... first night we were opening up for Dead Air in Denver, and it was just insane. We came out, Denver, Colorado. I always remember it, and the place just went nuts. They knew the lyrics of the songs. It was just like the complete opposite of what we had just done, and we just that was it. It was
Was that that must have been pretty bizarre?
Did not expect it.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
had you that tour?
Had you guys ever been to the United States before?
Just to do the Linger video, but we'd never played there before. That was their first ever gig, was in Denver, Colorado, Paramount Theater.
Was that? I mean, tell me about that experience, because you guys were only really playing in the UK, in Ireland, and then you come out to the States, and you are playing to a crowd of people that knew the songs. Wow.
Yeah, that was the best part, because people singing along to the songs, and dancing, and it was just nuts. And we did that tour with and then on days off we'd play in clubs ourselves. And then I think after that tour, that was for like maybe 2 or 3 months. So we took a break, came home for 2 weeks, and went back over to the States for another 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just insane.
Yeah, and I mean that record, it's I mean, well, all over the place, but in the States, it looks. I mean, it went 7 times platinum. That's crazy.
Yeah. I remember being so sick of hearing "Linger" on MTV in the hotel room. They were like constantly playing it, and we're like, not again. I know it's terrible to say, because like I gotta play it tonight, and I heard it 10 times to this morning already. So yeah, it was amazing. Like we were, and we completely just enjoyed it, because we felt we put in a lot of work at that point, and
right.
it was great to play to people who wanted to actually see you and hear you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you guys got to play Woodstock that year. I mean, that's pretty crazy too.
That was a few years later. Yeah, it was 94, just after we finished recording. No Need to Argue.
Wow. I mean, just to kind of be thrown into that must have been nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about hearing "Linger" and just being sick of hearing it at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Tell me about seeing it the first time on MTV. How was that moment?
Yeah,
it
was
incredible.
Mad. Yeah, they put us on what they used to call heavy rotation, which was all these fancy words to us at the time, but you kind of got to know what it meant.
Sure.
And because it was weird that when we released the album here, it struggled, and you kind of don't know where your career is going, or if you're going to have one, to within 6 months, and particularly in the States at the time, there weren't really many bands from Europe that were kind of making it big there. In my, like, U2 would have been the big band,
Sure.
not just that they're Irish, but European band, and around that time ourselves, and I think Radiohead then came over just after us and stuff, so to be able to kind of break that barrier was amazing as well. And we were all very early 20s and kind of living our best lives, as I said these days, just loving it. It was amazing. Like, we great memories of that time.
Oh yeah. Wow. And so you obviously the records does awesome, after the first little bit in the UK and stuff. You come to the States, it's doing amazing. And then obviously I'm sure you guys did quite a bit of touring and stuff before you put out No Need to Argue. So so then you come back and then you put out No Need to Argue, which is your next record. And were you kind of worried going into the second album? Because I know a lot of bands, once they put out the first record with a major label, and if it does really well, it's like, okay, now you got to do it again.
Yeah, we didn't feel that pressure. I don't think, because we had been touring for a lot, and then there was kind of, I suppose, between the first album being released and recording No Need to Argue was nearly 2 years. So we had a good lot of time to kind of preparing. We were writing new songs on the road all the time. So by the time we got into the studio, we were kind of ready almost to go, And Stephen was a bit nervous, I think, all right, because he had experience, he understood the whole thing. We were kind of going, look, it'll be fine. We have all these songs, we're grand, we're tight. You're 21, you don't really take the whole thing too seriously. Like, you have no fear, I suppose, at that age. And it's like, yeah, we'll be grand. Look, it's fine. We'll get in there and we'll do it. And we did,
Wow. Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously that record, again, it becomes your biggest selling album. But wow. And then you guys are doing a re-release of No Need to Argue as well. And that's the most recent thing that's going to be coming out. I want to talk to you about, like, what was the reason? Is it because the album was so successful that you decided to do the reissue of that record?
No, we did the first album last year. It was 25 years for that album. So we had spent a good, it was the bones of like 1.5 to 2 years on that first album, getting all the bits together, because there was an awful lot of stuff that we did before anyone knew us. and it was a lot of fun digging that stuff out, getting to hear it again, and a lot of stuff we'd forgotten about. And then when we were nearing the end of that, there was this realization between us and the record company that this album was coming up to its 25th anniversary as well. And maybe there's just as much stuff out there that we had forgotten about. And that was it. So we started digging around and finding bits and pieces that between the stuff some of us had at home with cassettes and things, and then the record company had stuff that we didn't know about, we'd forgotten about, and that, and a lot of live stuff. And even I think the photographer, Andy, who has done nearly all of the covers for us from the beginning, I think apart from one, he had some photos that we hadn't used at the time that were taken when we were doing the session for it. So we kind of got all these things together, and then, it was great to hear the album remastered again then from start to finish. You kind of forget, you don't tend to listen to your own music as much, really.
Right. Yeah, that must have took you guys back, though, putting in those tapes and hearing, demo songs that you hadn't heard in 25 years.
Yeah, because there's some songs that we didn't ever really play live again. Like that Yesterday's Gone was from the MTV Unplugged. I think that's the only time we ever played it.
Really?
And then there was a song called Serious, and we just did a rough demo for in the studio, but never actually recorded. Played a couple of times live, but that was it. Just one of those ones that kind of we forget about.
And then that's still like finding those, like you said, you had to go like dig through. How would you even begin to try to put together a release of a record that was 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Like how did you like, did you guys find one cassette tape of demos and we're like, oh wow, okay, we have this?
No,
like,
it was loads. There was about, five different live ones, and then about 3 or 4 different demo bits and pieces that we kind of trawled through. There's a lot of crap, even bits of like talking and stuff in between takes and stuff in the studio, and I think the tape was just left running for some of it, and so we kind of picked out bits that we thought would work. And some of the live stuff was nice as well to have. There's some bits with Dolores talking to the audience in between as well, which is lovely to have. It just makes it a bit more personal, I think.
Yeah. Those tapes with the where it just kept running, I'm sure there was some pretty comedy stuff in between there. Talking and stuff.
Yeah, that's another album there,
Yeah, I was gonna say that could be a record on itself. The outtakes. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it. This has been so
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Great.
I have one more question I want to ask you guys. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because the record industry has changed so much since we started off. What you would do is like record a demo, send it off, and someone would see you play live. But now it seems to be, for the younger kids, it's kind of like YouTube. That they'll put their stuff up on YouTube and hopefully they get discovered that way. So that's kind of like the modern day demo tape, really, is like, put it up on YouTube and then try and get a fan base from that, I suppose. But
what about you, Noel?
Yeah, like, look, I mean, we've always just tried to stay true to what we were into. We wrote songs that we liked, that we weren't in the band, we'd want to hear them. And I think that's what you're best to do, is kind of follow, I know it's a cliche, I don't want to even say it, but kind of follow your heart with it and go, this is what I'm into. It may not be trendy now, but you can stand up again, you can be proud of it then, whereas trends come and go, and if you can follow down a certain path, and then in 2 years that's kind of moved on, and you go, God, it sounds so dated now, So I think we've always just kind of stuck by our own guns and went, we like it. You may not be, it may not be for everybody right at that moment, but I think we can kind of look back on all our albums and be pretty proud of them.